process that we need to get some input, not only because it affects all of us, but because we need the thinking that goes behind it. My dad used to say, all of us are smarter than any one of us in this room. Even if you have to put in 99%, my 1% still counts. So we have a lot of work to do. We need to get going on it. We're started a little bit late. We expected some more folks, and they may be coming in as time goes on. But I want to just turn it over back to Jerry. Thank you for being here. Let's do some good work.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, but everyone's got their agenda. Everyone picked up an agenda when they walked in the room. Well, I'll give you this when I'm done. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to give you a little bit of background and also kind of give you a little bit of orientation about the process that we're going to go through in the next few hours. So first I would like to introduce Erin Phipps. She's a health promotion specialist from the New Mexico Department of Health, and she's also working on she's the coordinator of the ACHIEVE project here in the Southeast Side, and also Joanne McIntyre, the project planner for ACHIEVE.
Thank you very much. So I'm Erin Phipps, and I just want to give a little bit of background. Many of you have been involved in the work we've been doing over the past several months, but not everyone. So I just want to very briefly describe how we got to where we are today. In March of last year, we received a planning grant to pilot this action guide. It's from the CDC and Partnership for Prevention. It's called Places for Physical Activity, Facilitating Development of a Community Trail and Promoting its Use to Increase Physical Activity among Youth and Adults. So our job is to work through the steps in this guide and give them feedback on what we thought of the guide itself. At this point, what we've done over the past several months is gone out to several community events and done a little bit of outreach to solicit some opinions from the residents in the Southeast Heights, specifically the International District, about the conditions of the streets. Where do they prefer to walk? Where do they not like to walk, and why? And in your folders on the left-hand side, there's a green sheet with some of the questions that we asked people. We went out with a map like this and asked people about the streets in the area. Just behind that green sheet is a stapled handout with all of the feedback we got. People had comments about sidewalks or lighting or safety issues. And based on those comments was how we developed what we're calling the potential community trail segments, the green lines on the maps. So that was basically our interpretation of the recommendations given to us by community members. The next thing we did is we took several walks with community members or different groups along these green streets. And the surveys that we used are also in that left-hand side of the folder. There's an English and a Spanish survey. And we had people actually go out and measure the sidewalks. How wide are the sidewalks? How many driveway cuts are there? Are you going up and down? And other conditions. And that gave us the data that we then put on the maps on the right-hand side of the folder. So that's essentially the steps that got us to where we are here today. And the last thing I just want to briefly mention is why are we here today and what do we hope to do by the end? So as we have here in the flip chart, there's a couple key objectives. So we'd like to identify specific street segments that the community wants to be included in the final community trail. We have a lot of segments here. There's about 16 miles of potential segments, which is a lot. So we'd like to narrow those down, especially sometimes there's two streets that are very close together, heading in the same direction. So we don't necessarily need both. So we'd like you to help us narrow down to determine what will be in the final community trail. Give us those recommendations. And there will be further meetings with the planning group. Everyone is welcome to join the planning group. We want input, and we'll be continuing to refine that down the road. We'd also like to bring together the community and other stakeholders to promote the trail and physical activity. And we're going to be making a trail guide this fall that Joanne will talk about a little bit more. And then finally, I also want to mention the little pink slips in your folders where we'd like to get your opinions about what we might call this community trail. There's a suggestion we've heard, listed in there, International Trail with the recent international district naming. But we'd love for you to give us as many ideas as you'd like. So definitely, as we're going through, just think about that and write down any suggestions you have and just put them in the folder we'll collect. So with that, I'd like to hand this over to Joanne, who will talk a little bit more about the details of the process. Did you want this?